Thanks for downloading another segment from the Best of the Classic Metal Show. The Classic Metal Show is heard live on Saturdays from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, exclusively at www.theclassicmetalshow.com. And now here's another piece of Classic Metal Show history on the Best of the Classic Metal Show.
The Classic Metal Show.
It's the Classic Metal Show right here on theclassicmetalshow.com. That, of course, brand new stuff from the band Stratovarius from the POLARIS album, that tune called Blind. And on the phone right now we have keyboardist Jens Johannsen. Jens, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Excellent. Well,
I'm in Dublin, Ireland, drinking some coffee. Everybody else went out sighting, and I couldn't because I was like, I had to shower and I had to eat something. It's like,
Right.
So, yeah, everything is cool, actually.
Excellent.
So I'm enjoying the tour. It's like, so far, this is actually the 6th gig that we do now with this new lineup, and everything has been going pretty okay.
Sure. Well, Jens, obviously, man, this is a very new, different, interesting time for Stratovarius. I mean, there's been so much turmoil since the last record, with Timo Tolkki leaving and you guys restructuring the band and really writing your first album that is Tolkki free, ever.
Yeah, in a way.
Ever. I mean, how has it been, with basically what probably almost feels like a new band to you guys?
It was a difficult record to put together for many reasons. I mean, I would even say it's like it was an experiment. I mean, I didn't really know when Timo left, I didn't know what we should do or what I should do. But yeah, anyway, the rest of us who were left in the band decided anyway that we were going to continue making some sort of music. We didn't quite know if we were going to use the name Stratovarius or not. But anyway, what we did was that we got together all the writing people in the band, basically, which is me, Matthias, Kotopelto, and Lauri. Actually, the first thing we did was to get the new guitar player, which of course, it's not quite easy. You don't just go buy one in a store. But Lauri had some connections he had made before with, this guy in Helsinki, and he was like, well, we should check this guy out. And I listened to a few YouTube videos and stuff like that, and I quite liked his playing. And then we got together to write. What happened then was that basically we still didn't really know what to do. But we made like 16, 17 songs. And after a while, we decided basically to start recording drums for these demos. We figured, let's make some demos from the songs that we made. We recorded the drums quite cheaply in a way, but we made them in a way that we also could use them on the record. But since we financed it ourselves, basically, we didn't really know what name to use for the band. But we just we tracked the drums for all those 17 songs too. And at that point, to me anyway, I mean, we started recording a little bit of vocals and stuff too. And I mean, it was pretty clear it sounded like Stratovarius. So at that point, we decided to use the name Stratovarius actually.
Sure.
Which I think was about September last year. And then somehow we just decided, well, what the hell, let's just make this record. So then we finished actually recording all the stuff on top of those drums, which were actually sort of only meant to be demo, but, we finished the record basically self-financed. And last, we got the deals in place for record distribution deals.
Sure.
And that was like maybe February. So it was like, compared to a normal Stratovarius record, I would say it's like completely reversed.
Okay.
The process was completely reversed because in the past, I mean, we've already had the record deal in place, and then Timo Tolkki comes and writes the songs, and then we, maybe rearrange the songs a little bit and record them, and the record comes out. But this time it was like completely opposite. We started without a name, without a guitar player, without any songs. Right. We got the guitar player, we got the songs. We decided to use the name once Jörg recorded some drums on there. And then we got the deal.
Sure.
So it was kind of chaotic. And if you know some of the story behind the thing too, I mean, when Timo left the band, at some point later on, he gave us sort of the rights and the blessing to use the name Stratovarius, but then he changed his mind and he was going to sue us. So it was like all the stuff going on also behind the scenes, making it quite stressful to self-finance recording this album in a way. Right. But I think it turned out okay, and I'm happy we did. So.
Sure. Well, Jens, obviously, man, and you mentioned it there. I mean, Timo Tolkki is an odd guy. I'll just leave it at that. He does not do anything that's conventional, and I mean, he uses the press to almost make himself look bad sometimes by saying, because I remember when that was out there, he said, "Yeah, I give the guys the full blessing of using the name," and then not even a month later, "I'm going to sue those guys if they use the name." And then there was the alleged stabbing incident and the Miss K incident and stuff.
But that stuff was like much earlier.
Sure.
But I think it's of course still a little bit the same idea. I mean that you create this like press stuff, like to create publicity. And of course, a lot of bands do that stuff. But I think in a way this was like very poorly planned and somehow a little bit maybe too outrageous.
Right.
Too. And I think in the end he couldn't really handle doing this stuff. I mean, doing all this lying and stuff too. And I think none of us other guys could do it either. It was like sort of one of the big problems was that we thought maybe that we were men enough to pull this stupid stunt off, and of course nobody really could handle it, and I think least of all him. And he was of course the biggest driving force behind doing all this stunt stuff. I mean, now he's also sometimes trying to say like it was everybody planned this, and of course I mean he was like sort of the mastermind because he was the leader of the band at the time.
Sure.
And we sort of trusted him.
Right.
But anyway, it's sort of a sad story in a way. I mean, the whole thing is sad, and I think the way he left the band was also sad in a way. But
Yeah.
you have to understand maybe that he was a little bit tired of some of the guys in the band and a little bit tired of the music and wanted to move on to other stuff like the opera project that he had in producing and stuff.
Sure.
So I mean, of course I was upset when he left because it cost us so much money, but once I sort of realized that this money is not coming back and you just have to forget about it. I think back to other times in my life when I made huge losses like that, and you have to let it go, otherwise it's going to drive you crazy.
Right. Well, with him leaving though, I mean, and admittedly, obviously he was the name, so to speak, that was associated with Stratovarius. But, with him leaving and now with you guys seemingly being re-energized, is it a whole different, like a fresher feeling doing this now because you don't have all the insanity involved in it anymore?
Well, he's not quite as insane as people try to make out in a way. Like, it's just that sometimes he does unpredictable things, and of course, I mean, sometimes he might act in his own interest rather than in the band's interest, and of course, this is where he would run into problems with the band, But I think any time you work together with people, you have to be prepared for some unpredictability and stuff. Of course, I hope this lineup is going to be a little bit less turmoil than it was last few years with the old lineup, but you never know. I don't know.
Sure. Well,
it's anyway a good feeling now, but of course, while we were making the record, it was like sometimes quite chaotic because, like I said, we put it together completely opposite way from how we usually did it. But it's of course normally how bands do it. I mean, you write the songs first and then decide what to call yourself.
Sure.
But anyway, I mean, in the end, I mean, you have to. What I'm proud of is that we sort of grabbed the bull by the horns and saw at least possibility to making some nice music, no matter what happened in the past. And of course, I mean, this is really why, if you're a musician, it's what you should be doing. You should musish. And I'm happy we sort of took this opportunity to do that. Like, no matter what has been said and done in the past. And
right.
I hope he does too. I mean, I know he will because he's very good at that too. Like,
sure. Excellent.
Really, really good songwriter. I mean, as you know, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now with the new record, the one thing that is interesting and is probably the most unexpected from people that follow the band is, even though in the past Tolkki wrote 90-95% of the stuff, the new album Polaris sounds very much like a Stratovarius record. I mean, it doesn't sound, it has some new elements and some fresh ideas and directions, but ultimately if somebody listens to this record, they're not going to think that it's anything but new Stratovarius. Is that how you guys see it as well?
Yeah, that's how I saw it, and like I said, I mean, it's the kind of stuff that you can't like just predict before you actually go down and start tracking, because before I heard sort of what it would sound like when Jörg had put his drum tracks down, of course, it's like the point, I made the same realization, this is going to sound like Stratovarius. I mean, it's like, I think basically on the strength of having those two guys, which is Jörg and Timo Kottepelto, in the band, they are, somewhat idiosyncratic in their approach to music. So it puts their stamp, on the sound, in a way. Like, I mean, it's more of a sound issue. Like, Kottepelto's voice is very recognizable, and I think Jörg's drum stuff, it's like his idea space, whatever you might want to call it, it's also very much part of the sound. So that's the point where I got convinced that we should use the name, because if it would have been sounding like something completely different, at that point I probably would have said, like, let's not do this as Stratovarius, because people would be disappointed or just like...
Right. Definitely. Now the one thing that I did notice from the liner notes in Polaris, Jens, is that it seems like you have in large part stepped up and taken Timo's place in the writing. I mean, it seems like you wrote most of the music and a lot of the lyrics to this record. Is this something that you've wanted to do in the past, or is it just kind of you took the necessary step needed?
I think it's everybody took. I think I wrote about a third of the stuff, or something.
Okay.
It's not like a tremendous amount. A third, or maybe, I don't know. So I think Lauri wrote maybe a third. I wrote a third, and then other two guys wrote a third. Maybe, if I was to estimate it.
Sure.
I mean, we just put a bunch of stuff. We had like I said, 17 or 18 songs. Some of them we didn't finish. We just basically picked a wide spectrum of stuff that we thought would fit, and then based on that, when we finished the record, we picked like 9 or 10 songs that we seriously finished, because of course it's expensive, and like I said, we financed it ourselves.
Right.
So it was a risk. I mean, fuck, no. Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
It was quite stressful,
Now, and the one thing that is pretty cool is when you go through, especially some of the lyrics, like on King of Nothing or Blind, you can tell some of this stuff is kind of written close to home. Is that a true statement?
Not really.
Oh, no?
I mean, it's not like, none of these songs are like this kind of hate songs. They're all about normal stuff. I mean, anyway, the stuff I write about is usually very strange. So I probably not go into so much detail about what they are about, but it's not really about the band situation. It's not like this Nightwish where they had like 2 songs about their former bandmates or something like that. I think we made a conscious effort not to do that, because I think you look back at it 5 years later and you regret doing that, basically. So all the lyrics are just about stuff.
Absolutely. Right on, man. Well,
try to interpret it in that context, but they really weren't. They were like.
Well, Jens, as you guys move forward here into the summer, I'm sure you guys are probably going to be hitting the summer festival circuit. I mean, is it old hat for you now, or does it feel quite new because you're doing it as a whole, a new Stratovarius more or less?
Well, summer festivals, I don't really know. I mean, this tour is. So this, of course, is in some places you're like, oh, the PA is broken, like finger's sick, that type of thing. But I'm sure the summer festivals will be really good, because now we've sort of, I mean, this lineup has not played live before like last week.
Okay.
So of course we need to get to know each other also on live levels. It's like a different thing than going to the studio and you can perfect everything. Live is really sort of where where the road meets the rubber, or other way around, or whatever it is.
Right. Right, definitely. Well, Jens, before I let you go, man, I got to ask you what's known as the traditional classic metal show question. We ask everybody this one. How has Lemmy from Motorhead influenced your career?
I think, just by the songwriting. I think, actually, one aspect of Lemmy that I really like is the book that he wrote. If you have read this, have you read this book?
I haven't.
Autobiography.
No, I haven't.
That's really, it's really funny guy. I mean, he's, of course you might think that he's, crazy or an idiot or something, but he's not at all. I mean, he's really intelligent dude.
Right.
And, and this book, I think, is very funny because it describes a lot of, there's a lot of stuff that every musician goes through. So I would say, I'm not a particular super fan of Motorhead's music, but of course there's a few songs that I really love, like the classic hits that everybody loves.
Right.
We Are the Road Crew and the Ace of Spades and stuff like that.
Right.
But, I mean, read the book. If you haven't read the book and you're interested in Lemmy, then this book is great.
Okay. I definitely will. Well, all right, Jens. Yeah. Well, like we said, the new album is called Polaris. It is Stratovarius. And Jens, has a tradition on the show, we always let the artist pick a closing song and maybe tell us a quick story about it. So what should we end this with?
You mean from Polaris, then?
Yeah.
Well, should I pick one of mine or should I pick one of ours? You said you played this blind already.
Yep, we opened with blind.
Why don't you play this Deep Unknown?
Okay.
Because I think that's like different enough and similar enough that you can hear somehow this new approach. And I think the new record that comes out after Polaris, whatever it's going to be called, this is sort of, God knows what direction we're going to take. But anyway, I love that song, and I think it's, it has a little bit of everything. Of course, it's also Matthias was the main writer on that, like musical writer. So I think you played one fast double bass drum track, and then this is like slower fast double bass drum track, and maybe you do that one.
All right. Well, let's do it right now. This is Stratovarius with Deep Unknown right here on your Classic Metal Show.
Thanks for checking out the best of the Classic Metal Show. You can tune into the Classic Metal Show live every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, exclusively at www.theclassicmetalshow.com.
The Classic Metal Show.